Hey, shout out to everybody who came out today to Khaliis take. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you always, commenting on my videos and just giving me some watch time and giving me a little bit of your time. So I really appreciate that, and I just want to let you know that as far as the day, when we talk about the Clippers, is it do or die tonight versus the Mavs? And what I want to explain about that is when I say do or die, if the Clippers go down 0-2, what where do they go from there? I mean, of course, the series is not over. Of course, the series is still going. Of course, who is the first, whoever gets the 4 games wins the series. But if you go down 0-2 against this Mavericks team who has supreme confidence against you, supreme confidence playing against your defense, supreme confidence that their role players are better than yours, and supreme confidence that whoever guards Luka, he's still going to get a triple double. It's just not good. You know, when you listen to Shannon and Skip on how they gave their analysis or give their analysis on, you know, the Clippers, I definitely agree that, you know, if the game is close in the fourth quarter of that game, the Clippers need to be worried because the one Achilles heel that they seem to keep having is when it's close in the fourth quarter with 3 to 5 minutes to go in the game, and the game is in their hand, in their hands, or they have a way to close the game. They just don't do it. And the more and more we watch the Clippers, you can be a Clippers fan, you could be a Clippers hater. It doesn't matter, but you still see the same thing that I see, that everybody else sees. They they just don't play well down the stretch. In the fourth quarter of these games, when it's tight and it's close, they just don't close games. And it baffles me that they can't close games because you have somebody like Kawhi Leonard, who's a mid-range wizard, master, and Kawhi Leonard has closed games before. We see him do it on the Spurs. We see him do it on the Toronto Raptors. I mean, it's not like Kawhi can't do it. We've seen him do it. The man won 2 Finals MVPs. The man won Defensive Player of the Year twice. It's not like he can't do these things. And I'm not putting it all on Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard doesn't play by himself. He plays with a team. And, to have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on the team, somebody has to slow one of those guys down. Now, my motto is, you let Luka do what he wants as much and shut down all the other guys. That's my motto. Because if you shut down the Brunsons and the Dorian Finney-Smiths and the Tim Hardaways, you can win the game pretty easily, in my mind. Luka can go for 50, but if Dorian Finney-Smith only hits 1 or 2 threes, if Tim Hardaway goes 1 for 5 from threes, if Brunson doesn't come off the bench and give you double digits in a game, you could beat the Mavericks. And if you can limit Porzingis to maybe 15 points somewhere in there, you can beat the Mavericks. But that's the thing. You have to stop all the other guys because the other guys are the ones that's killing you. Luka's a superstar. It's hard to stop superstars. The only thing you can do with a superstar is slow a superstar down. You can't stop superstars. That's why they're superstars, because they can do things that other players can't on the court. Like, you can't stop Kawhi Leonard when he wants to score 25 or 30 points. You can't stop that because that's just what he does. He's a superstar. You know, um, but this team, I would say, is do or die. This game right here to me is the end all be all. They have to they have to win this game because I'm going to say this. I've always been a big Kawhi Leonard fan, but even Kawhi Leonard, being down 0-2 with this Clippers squad is not the same when he was down 0-2 a couple years ago with the Toronto Raptors squad when they were playing against Giannis and the Bucks. When they were playing against Giannis and the Bucks a couple of years ago when he was on Toronto, they was down 0-2 in that conference finals, and everybody thought the Bucks were going to win that championship, or excuse me, make it to the finals. But The team he had with Toronto, everybody on there was mentally tough. Everybody on there was hungry. And everybody on there knew the opportunity that was in front of them. And they had a really, really good head coach. Nick Nurse doesn't get a lot of credit for how good of a coach he was or still is. Nick Nurse made some really, really vast adjustments and made them become a championship team. When they came back from that 0-2, not only Kawhi Leonard played awesome, but if you look at how they played defensively, rotations, putting people in the right position, making the right plays, executing at a high level on offense when it was time for them to do so, that's great coaching. And I'm going to tell you, in this series right here, one of the biggest problems I see is coaching so far. Now, like I said, there's only one game that has been played, but tonight will pretty much determine exactly what's going on even more. Because the first game I saw Rick Carlisle outcoach Ty Lue. Rick Carlisle made the proper adjustments, drew up the proper plays, and they executed them at a high level because they did them at the time they needed to. The Dallas Mavericks made the plays when they needed to because Rick Carlisle has won a championship before also. So Rick Carlisle knows what it's like to make adjustments. I mean, Rick Carlisle is one of the only coaches that won championships as a player and as a coach. So when you look at his IQ, his resume for the NBA world, it's very, very high. His IQ, NBA IQ, basketball IQ is really, really high. And Ty Lue, I mean, starting that game with Patrick Beverley, well, I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do, but I'm just saying I don't know if that's the best, that was the best option. And then, like I said before about the Reggie Jackson thing, Reggie Jackson to me is a really nice player, but I don't think he is a nice player or really complimentary for the playoffs. I just don't see his game being at that level. And I never ever did. Even when he was on OKC or whatever team, Detroit Pistons, wherever he's played, his game was never really built for playoffs. I mean, he looks like like an and one, street ball player at times. He doesn't look, like a really, really good, solid NBA player. He just doesn't give me that vibe. He could play. I'm not saying he can't play because he can. When he's shooting good, he's streaky. He can shoot pretty good when his streak is going. He's a real streaky shooter, and he can get around people. He got a nice little underrated handle, but what that's not what it takes to win championships. You have to have more than that. You have to have that dog in you. You have to have that mentality of I need to make an impact in this game and put my imprint on this game because this team looks at me as a starter on this team. And the way he played the other night, it just wasn't helping the Clippers. And a lot of people are not talking about how bad he played and how bad Marcus Morris played. Because I can tell you this much. If Kawhi Leonard and Paul George play good, along with Rondo some, it's probably not going to make much difference because they still need the other guys. They still need Reggie Jackson to put up his 12 to 15. They still need Marcus Morris to put up his 12 to 15 and play good defense. This is what I'm talking about. The other guys make a team valuable. You just saw it with the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah, Luka scored 31, 10, and 10. He had a triple double, but Luka had 1 point in the fourth quarter. Luka barely, damn near not scored in the fourth quarter. I mean, let that sink in. He had 1 point in the fourth quarter, so there's no reason why the Clippers should have lost that game. But you know why they lost? Because the other guys made the difference. Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., they kept hitting big shot after big shot. And then the little guy, backup point guard Brunson comes in there and keeps the Dallas Mavericks offense going himself by scoring the points he scored. And a couple of those points were on Paul George. So, I mean, it has to be a collective team effort. You have to get what you got out of the other guys all this season. The Clippers were looked at as the number one 3-point shooting team, the number one free throw shooting team. Marcus Morris missed 2 free throws back to back at the end of the game, late in the fourth quarter. Reggie Jackson, like I said, he got outscored by the little guy, Brunson, and definitely got outscored by Finney Smith and Tim Hardaway Jr. He wasn't even on their level. I mean, it literally looked like Reggie Jackson shouldn't even been playing in that game. It literally looked like Reggie Jackson shouldn't even be in the rotation. I said in my last video, I would put Terrence Mann in there over Reggie Jackson because I know what I'm getting in Terrence Mann. He is eager, he's hungry, he's young, and, he's fearless. He's exactly what the Clippers need in that rotation to keep that offense going and play harder defense because Terrence Mann can knock down shots. Terrence Mann can get to the basket. He is exactly what they need. And I really think they need to think about replacing Reggie Jackson with him because he's more of what you need to come into start the game with that type of energy. And I personally think he would, even if they rotated him some and switched him on, Luka. I'm not saying he would stop Luka because he's a very young player, but I think Terrence Mann's fearlessness would bother Luka some because he's not afraid of the moment. He's just coming out there trying to make a name for himself and give the team a spark. And when you have players like that, those type of players play with no fear, which means they'll go out there and play hard on defense and offense. And I'm just not sure about Patrick Beverley, on Luka, but that's a whole nother story. We can debate that. We could debate, all these topics really, but that's even more of a debatable topic because, Luka's out there screaming the man is too small. And really, he looked too small for Luka. Luka looked way too skilled to even be fazed by, Patrick Beverley. Now they say, Kawhi is going to guard him more this game, but the only problem with that is how much energy is Kawhi going to expend on the defensive end, and how much left is he going to have to provide on the offensive end? You have to ask yourself these questions. You have to ask yourself that. Now I've seen Kawhi Leonard go out there and dominate on defense, but that was back when he was like an 18, 19 point scorer. Well, I'd say he was scoring like 20 points a game, but he wasn't a 25 to 30 point scorer like he is now. And they're asking a lot of him to go out there and guard a player like Luka and go out there and just make good things happen on the offensive end. Now, my main thing is a part of this take here I want to speak on. I want to speak on Paul George. I really want Paul George to turn into playoff P, but you got to show up. I'm tired of the excuses. Last game, he showed up in the second half. We need 48 minutes of great play from Paul George. I said last game, if Kawhi Leonard got 25 plus points out of Paul George, the Clippers win that game. The Clippers win that game. If Paul George has one of his 29, 30-point nights, or something like that, and then, Kawhi has 26, I think he had 26, 10, and, all that, I think they win that game. I think it changes the trajectory of the game if Paul George is playing better, because I feel like that's going to make the Mavericks look at how they need to play their defense and how they're going to, switch up just to contain Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, in which that'll allow the others like Marcus Morris to get more wide open shots, better looks, and, so and so on. But we're going to see exactly, how all this pans out. But I definitely need Paul George to turn into who he say he is, playoff P. Because if he doesn't, if he has another game like he started that one, they might find themselves down in that game. Because like I said before, it just didn't seem like Dallas. It seemed like Dallas was in control of the game the whole time. No matter whether the Clippers took a 4-point lead, 5-point lead, it didn't matter. Dallas was in control the whole time because they neutralized Paul George, and Paul George came out struggling so bad, it really just opened up more for Dallas because it's like, oh, okay, Kawhi is doing good in the first half and, a little bit of the second half, but Paul George is not helping. And it's almost like teams expect that to happen. And when it does, the Clippers always lose. I mean, you played this team last year. This team knows you better. So don't think it's going to be an easy run. And I'm not going to sit here and say, after 2 games, it's completely over. But to be quite honest, when you're down 0-2 with a team that's mentally not as tough as the Clippers think they are, the Clippers can find themselves in a bad situation if they go down 0-2. And I personally think, I mean, if they're down 0-2 against a team like Dallas with this type of confidence, it is going to be really tough to beat them. I don't know if the Clippers can win 4 straight after that. Like I said, I just don't believe they're built to do it. My opinion, I don't believe they are. But this is the reason why I say tonight is a must. And there's no other way to look at it. It is a must. It has to happen. There's no other way to look at it. You have to win it. You have to you have to find a way to pull it out. And it's not going to be easy. And I predict this game to be really close. I mean, I predict the score to be 108 to 104 Clippers. But they got to go out there and prove it rather than talk about it. So we'll see exactly how the game goes. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see if Paul George shows up first and second half. We'll see if Kawhi can continue, playing the way he played the first game, maybe, play a little bit better in the fourth quarter. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully that's what happens. And hopefully they contain some of those other guys. Because, I mean, that's what's really going to come from. If Luka can't get 10 assists but can get 35 points, you can win that game. If Luka gets 12 assists with 30 points, you might end up losing that game. If you can limit Luka to maybe 30 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds, something like that, you might have a chance to win. But if if he has a triple double, not even after the third, the quarter. I mean, if he has a triple double in the third quarter, 30, 10, and 10, well, technically, I guess he didn't need to score too many points in the fourth, did he? Because it's like he already had a triple double. I mean, he was killing the Clippers from the start to the finish, just about. So it's like you got to contain him some, but you really got to neutralize the other guys. And the Clippers are going to do that. It's going to start the night. But hey, this is my take on it. This is what I think about it. Hey, like I said, let me know your opinion on it. I definitely want to hear what you have to say, and we can engage about it. We can talk about it. And next time.